A storm never announces itself. It just shows up, wrecks everything, and leaves the silence behind to do the talking. They thought they had you figured out, thought they could read you like a book written in soft ink. They were wrong, dead wrong. What they didn't realize is, while they were playing games, you were becoming the very force they should have feared from the start. They weren't just poking at you, they were picking a fight with something way bigger than they could ever handle. They were challenging the universe's decision, a decision that marked you as chosen. Before we go deeper, take a second, like, subscribe, and share this message. When you do that, you help this reach more chosen ones out there who need to wake up and remember who they are. Every time you engage, it signals to the platform that this message matters, that it's time to wake the sleeping giants. Now, let's talk about what it means to be chosen. Because it's not about crowns or comfort. It's about being hand-picked by the universe to carry pressure most people would collapse under. It's about having a light so powerful it makes shadows uncomfortable. You carry a frequency that exposes lies, that disrupts illusions, that shakes every mask around you. That's why they couldn't stand you. That's why they tried to bury you in confusion, make you question your worth, your path, your strength. They thought if they kept hitting you long enough, you'd finally break. But you didn't, and now they're terrified. The power of being chosen isn't loud. It doesn't brag. It doesn't beg for recognition. It simply exists. And that alone is threatening to those built on nothing real. You don't have to lift a finger. Your presence alone starts shifting atmospheres. That's the level they were messing with. And the most dangerous part? They didn't even know it. But let's be real for a second. Some of you forgot. You forgot who you are. You started believing the noise. You let the doubt crawl in and steal space in your mind. You started thinking you were alone in this. How dare you? The universe didn't put all that strength in you just to watch you fall apart under pressure. You weren't abandoned. You were being sharpened. You weren't forgotten. You were being prepared. They weren't fighting just you. They were going against the current of the universe itself. They picked a battle they couldn't win, and now they're feeling the backlash. Don't let their confusion become your hesitation. Don't ever shrink to fit inside the idea they made of you. You were never meant to be small. Look at what happens when a volcano finally erupts after being quiet for too long. Look at the damage. Look at the shift. That's you. You were quiet, calm, patient, until now. And now, they're scrambling. Because the one they underestimated just became their biggest problem. And the silence they once mistook for weakness? That silence was loading. That silence was building power. Keep moving like the storm you are. Let them talk. Let them twist your name. Let them sit in rooms where they throw shadows at your character. Because eventually, the truth always shows up. And when it does, it doesn't knock. It kicks the door in. You weren't chosen for peace. You were chosen for impact. And impact doesn't come without resistance. So stop questioning your power. Stop doubting your path. You're not alone. You never were. You are the universe's response to imbalance. And now that you've remembered who you are, they don't stand a chance. So if this is hitting something deep in you, good. That means you're one of us. Drop the number 77 in the comments if you've ever had to hold back your true power just to keep the peace. That time is over. The masks are off. The streets are talking, and they're finally realizing you're not soft, not sweet, not easy to play with. You're a problem they didn't prepare for. And now, let's break it down step by step. If you really are chosen, you'll feel that pull to stay all the way through. Let's get into it. Number 1. They thought you were a lamb. Turns out you were just a lion that didn't roar yet. The loudest ones in the room are usually the weakest, because true power never needs to prove itself. It just shows up, silent and undeniable, and ruins every lie built in its absence. They mistook your calm for cowardice, your silence for surrender, your kindness. They twisted that into weakness. The whole time they thought they were playing you, but really they were just buying themselves time. Time borrowed from a universe that was watching, keeping receipts. And now that balance is shifting. They didn't realize the danger of poking someone chosen by the system itself. Not religion, not myth, just universal order. You were made different, not better, but definitely not normal. You weren't here to blend in. You were sent to disrupt, to shift, to break illusions and make the hidden truth feel like thunder in a quiet room. You were hidden in plain sight, on purpose. That was the strategy all along. The universe made sure of it. You weren't meant to start loud. You were meant to observe, to absorb, to endure, and then to awaken. Think about it. All those times they laughed at you behind closed doors, shared smirks when you walked away, made decisions in rooms where your name came up, but your voice wasn't invited. You remember that, don't you? Good, don't let it go. That's fuel now. Every smirk, every dismissal, every false narrative they spread about you was just a countdown to the day your silence snapped and turned into fire. You weren't soft. You were simmering. You weren't sweet. You were strategic. They thought they were dealing with a pushover, when in reality, they were staring down a force that hadn't fully stepped in yet. See, there's a reason the universe hides its warriors in ordinary skin, because nothing is more dangerous than a storm dressed in calm. You moved quiet, but your impact was always loud. And now that you're starting to see it, they're panicking. That's why the energy shifted. That's why people who once smiled in your face are now uncomfortable around you. That's why you feel it in the air. Something has turned, and it's not coming back. Let's address what's really going through your mind right now. Why me? Why was I chosen? Why does it feel like the universe throws me into fire and expects me to dance through it like it's nothing? Here's the answer. Because you can. Because the very blueprint of your spirit was built to thrive under pressure, to carry what others collapse under. That pressure was never punishment. It was placement. The fire didn't burn you, it shaped you. And now you carry heat wherever you go. But let's not sugarcoat this. Some of you forgot. You forgot your assignment. You fell into the trap of people-pleasing. You watered down your power to make others comfortable. You let their labels define your value. You let their limits become your ceiling. And worst of all, you thought you were alone. How dare you doubt your light just because it made others squint? How dare you shrink because your truth didn't fit into their narrative? You weren't meant to be understood by everyone. You were meant to be remembered by the few brave enough to see you. The universe never left you. It was waiting for you to wake up and realize who you are. The power of being chosen doesn't mean life gets easier. It means your path is heavier, your lessons deeper, your tests harder. But it also means when you move, everything moves with you. When you align, the entire system bends to back you up. The ones who tried to throw you off, they weren't just messing with you, they were challenging the order. They were fighting the current of something cosmic. And now they're reaping the storm. You ever seen a tide turn? It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't whisper. It just crashes. That's what's happening now. You are the tide. And they weren't ready. You think they're acting different around you now? That's fear, not always loud. Sometimes it shows up as avoidance, fake kindness, weird tension in the room. But trust me, it's fear. They don't know how to approach what they once thought they controlled. Because how do you talk to someone who outgrew your entire version of them? They were never scared of the quiet you. They were scared of who you'd become when the quiet ended. And here you are, walking proof that you can't bury light forever, that silence doesn't equal surrender, that the universe doesn't make mistakes when it marks someone chosen. It just plays the long game. Now, the same people who laughed at your struggle will be forced to witness your rise, not because you need revenge, but because the universe delivers clarity, not always how we want, but always when it's needed. And when it comes, it's final. So stand tall, own the power that had them fooled, be the storm they swore would never come. Move like someone backed by the blueprint of the universe, because you are. You always were. They thought you were the lamb in the field, but you were the lion, waiting for the right moment. And that moment is now. Number 2. The switch flipped, and now they wish it never did. They feared the day you'd stop explaining yourself. They feared the silence that came after you outgrew needing their approval. But what they really feared was the moment you'd finally become everything they swore you never would. You felt it, didn't you? That shift, that instant when something inside you snapped. Quietly, but with a finality that echoed like thunder across the unseen. Your eyes didn't just look different, they saw different. And they saw it, too. Oh, they felt it. In your stare, in the weight of your presence, in the drop in your tone, like gravity had just settled in your chest. That was the moment, the unleashing. They didn't know they were standing next to a fault line. They laughed, pushed, poked, whispered behind your back like you were a game. But then the ground moved. The energy cracked. The room felt heavier, and they couldn't explain why. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't throw a punch. You didn't even flinch. But something ancient opened its eyes inside you. Let them tremble. They earned it. The universe didn't drag you through years of fire and pressure just to have you play small for the sake of keeping the peace. You weren't shaped by chaos, only to be softened by comfort. You weren't written into the story to play a background character in your own life. No, you were hidden, sharpened, activated. Every trial was training. Every betrayal was data. Every silence you were forced to sit in became your echo chamber, until the day your silence turned into a storm. You wore the mask for a reason. You smiled through insults. You stayed quiet while they claimed your ideas. You kept peace with people who were waging war on your spirit, because you knew something they didn't. You understood timing. You understood control. You knew there's more power in waiting than in reacting. Every warrior knows when not to draw the blade. Every chosen one knows the most dangerous thing they can do is be seen too early. But that phase, it's done. The doors are open. The mask is cracked. The patience has served its purpose. Now comes the season of revelation. Not in words, but in presence. Not in explanations, but in energy. They didn't believe in you. Good. That disbelief was your shield. That underestimation gave you room to build, to rise, to prepare. And now that they finally see what you've become, they're realizing what you always were. Something chosen, something aligned, something not to be trifled with. You walk into rooms differently now. You don't ask for space. It shifts around you. People look at you and feel things they can't name. Discomfort, respect, intimidation, wonder. And some of them will still pretend you haven't changed. Try to speak to you like you're still the old version of yourself. Let them try. Their words will fall flat in the gravity of who you are now. This is the consequence of poking a sleeping lion. This is what happens when the underestimated one stops pretending to be normal. And listen, if you're still carrying even a little doubt, if a voice is still trying to whisper, "But maybe I'm not ready," silence it. The universe didn't make a mistake choosing you. You don't need a permission slip to become who you were always meant to be. You are not too much. You are not too intense. You are not broken. You are unleashed. And that's exactly what they feared. Let them feel uncomfortable. Let them remember every time they thought they could walk over you and leave without consequence. Let them watch as you rise with no apology, no explanation, no need to prove anything to anyone. You are the response to a system that tried to suppress truth. You are the correction to every lie spoken in comfort. You are the shift they never expected. And now they're stuck watching what happens when real power stops holding back. It's too late to reverse it. You've been unleashed. Number 3, you weren't quiet, you were loading. Tactical silence isn't weakness. It's warfare disguised as stillness. And by the time they realize you were never sleeping, it's already too late. They thought they were watching someone harmless, soft-spoken, gentle, malleable, someone they could control, dismiss, talk over, gaslight, exploit. They thought your silence meant surrender. But here's the thing. The smartest storms never announce themselves. They just arrive. And by the time the sky goes black, there's no time to run. You played your position like a master strategist, walked through their world with your head down and your mind wide open. You let them think they had you figured out. Let them get comfortable. You moved quietly, not because you were scared, but because you were collecting. Every word they slipped, every lie they told, every moment they underestimated you became a thread in the web you were silently weaving. You didn't hide because you were weak. You stayed low because you were calculating. That smile, that softness, that quiet nod, that was tactical silence. And they never saw it for what it really was. Lethal patience. You weren't waiting for their approval. You were waiting for your moment. They underestimated how dangerous a quiet mind can be. While they bragged and barked and postured in public, you were watching. While they showed their hands, you were building your arsenal. They thought they had the upper hand. What they really had was a ticking clock. This wasn't deception. This wasn't manipulation. This was universal strategy. A precision plan written by forces bigger than them, bigger than you, unfolding exactly how it needed to. You don't warn the enemy before you strike. You don't explain your evolution to people committed to misunderstanding it. Let them keep calling it fake or ego or arrogance. Let them keep whispering your name in confusion. That's fear in disguise, because deep down they know they never really had power over you. What they had was access. And now that access has been revoked, they're panicking, as they should. You didn't change, you activated. A spider doesn't announce itself to the fly. The earthquake doesn't knock politely. The volcano doesn't schedule a meeting. And when a supernova explodes, it doesn't apologize for burning too bright. It just changes the sky. You were never built to be palatable. You were built to shift the atmosphere. That's why your silence shook them harder than your words ever could. Because silence backed by power, that's the kind of pressure that breaks people from the inside out. And let's address the inner voice trying to shame you for being quiet too long. The part of you wondering, why didn't I speak up sooner? Why did I let them think I was weak? No, that silence was part of the strategy. You weren't late. You were precise. The universe didn't delay your rise. It timed it. What's more dangerous? The wolf that howls at every shadow, or the one that doesn't make a sound until its teeth are already at your throat? That's you. You've always been the threat. You've just now become visible. So when they circle back, trying to figure out what changed, don't explain. Let them stay confused. Confusion is the price they pay for playing games with a chosen one. You owe them nothing. You already gave them more than they deserved. Now, your energy speaks louder than any speech. Now, your presence does what your voice never had to. When you enter a room, things shift. Not because you're loud, but because you're real. And realness unsettles anything built on illusion. This is the part of the story where you stop hiding your sharp edges. This is the chapter where your silence turns into strategy, and your strategy becomes a reckoning. They thought your softness was your whole identity. They had no idea it was just your camouflage. And now that it's off, they finally see what was there all along. A weapon in waiting, a force in disguise, a chosen one, no longer silent. Number 4, you let them think it was a game. Now they'll learn who set the rules. The quiet ones aren't weak, they're just calculating the cost of war. And when they finally move, it's never to fight, it's to finish. Your softness, that calm presence, that composed energy, was never weakness. It was a gift, one of the greatest tactical advantages the universe could ever give you. Because while they were playing checkers with egos, you were playing chess with your evolution. They saw a gentle soul and assumed they were dealing with someone safe. But you were never built to be safe. You were built to be unstoppable. The reckoning has begun, not just for them, but for the whole system that let them believe they could touch you without consequence. And now, the same hands that tried to shape your story are shaking. They don't understand how things flip so fast. They think you changed. No, you just arrived. Let's call it what it really is, the moment of exposure, the phase where everything that was hidden becomes obvious. You don't have to announce yourself. Your energy does it for you. They feel it now. That invisible weight in the room when you speak. That pause in their throat when they try to play you like they used to. That awkward shift in body language when they realize the version of you they manipulated is dead. The real you, the one they never prepared for, is here. And the universe has your back like never before. Balance is real. The universe doesn't forget who you are or what you endured, and it doesn't ignore those who built castles on your silence. That's why they're falling now. Not because you're seeking revenge, not because you're out for blood, but because truth demands payment. And when you're chosen, the universe handles your enemies better than you ever could. They thought your softness was an invitation to take advantage, to lie, to manipulate, to steal your light and wear it like their own. But softness isn't surrender, it's control. And now that you've dropped the act, the only ones still standing will be the ones who never tried to break you in the first place. Let's talk about those flickers, the moments when your real power slipped through the cracks. You remember, don't you? The way someone crossed a line and your eyes went cold, and suddenly they started stuttering, backing off, pretending it was a joke. That one time you spoke up without raising your voice, and the whole room froze, like something ancient had just entered the conversation. That was never random. That was truth cracking through the surface. That was the warning shot. They didn't listen. Now, the energy has shifted for real. You don't have to pretend anymore. You don't have to filter yourself for the comfort of people who never had your back. You don't have to dim to be digestible. This is your territory now. And they're still moving, like it's the old map. Let them trip. Let them try to figure out where they went wrong. That's not your concern. Your only job now is to keep rising. Not to prove anything, but because gravity can't hold what was built to fly. Some of them will try to re-enter your life, pretend they were always in your corner. Watch for that. They don't love you. They love the benefits of you. They're not sorry for how they treated you. They're sorry it didn't work. That softness they used to mock. Now they'll try to worship it. Now they'll call it powerful, rare, divine. Keep your distance. They don't deserve the new version of you because they tried to destroy the old one. This is the reckoning, not through vengeance, not through drama, through presence, through power, through undeniable truth. You're not here to burn bridges. You're here to remove access. You're not out to prove a point. You are the point. Let the dust rise. Let the illusions fall. You were never the one in danger. They were. They just didn't know it until now. And now they do. Number 5. They saw the shadow of your wings even before you knew you had them. Real ones don't need proof. They recognize the storm in your silence, the flame behind your eyes, and the power you haven't even unlocked yet. Long before the reckoning arrived, before your voice shifted, before your energy turned sharp enough to cut through lies, there were a few who saw it coming. Not everyone, just a handful. The ones who weren't fooled by your softness. The ones who saw past the mask, even when you didn't know you were wearing one. These were the first tremors, the quiet indicators before the ground split open and swallowed everything false. They felt the tension in your presence, like distant thunder before the storm makes landfall. They didn't know exactly what you were, but they knew it was something that didn't fit into ordinary boxes. They watched the way your eyes flickered when you were pushed too far, how they seemed to hold something ancient, something bigger than this moment. They noticed the silence that followed your laughter, the heaviness behind your stillness. It wasn't sadness, it was power, contained, and real ones. They felt it, deep in their bones. Some couldn't explain it, but they were drawn to it. drawn to you, not in obsession, but in reverence, not because you demanded it, but because your presence made it impossible to look away. You were moving like everyone else, but your energy spoke another language entirely. They heard it. They understood it, even if only in fragments. They didn't try to control you. They didn't try to shrink you. They didn't twist your quiet into a weakness or your stillness into submission. They respected the space between who you showed the world and who you really were. They didn't rush you. They watched, waited, honored the unfolding. These are the ones worthy of your truth. Because here's the thing, not everyone deserves access to the real you. Most people only want the version of you that makes them feel safe, not the one that shakes their illusions, but the ones who always knew. They welcomed the storm. They weren't afraid of your depth. They weren't intimidated by your light. They didn't flinch when they caught glimpses of your fire. They just nodded quietly, because part of them knew you were built for more. They felt your power before you did. They respected your silence, not as an absence of voice, but as a presence too powerful to waste on noise. Some of them approached you gently, carefully, like getting too close without permission might burn them, and they were right. Not because you meant harm, but because the fire you carry is real, and if they weren't prepared for it, it would melt the version of themselves they were trying to protect. You're not meant to be touched by just anyone. Your energy is sacred, and those who treated it like something casual, they were never meant to stay. But those who approached with awareness, with humility, with no desire to use or tame you, those few are different. They didn't need proof. They recognized the frequency. These people didn't just believe in you, they saw you, long before the world had any idea who you were. And now that you're stepping into it, they're not surprised. They're honored, because they knew this moment would come. They knew the mask wouldn't stay on forever. They were just waiting for the day when you'd stop holding back. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table, but the ones who saw you before the power became obvious. Those are your tribe. Protect them. Keep them close. They're the mirrors the universe placed around you to remind you of your true reflection when the world tried to distort it. Everyone else? They're just now realizing what's always been there. But your real ones, they never needed the storm to believe in the lightning. They knew. Number 6. The moment you stopped shrinking, the universe stood up with you. When the chosen finally rise, the world doesn't clap, it shakes. Not because it's witnessing something new, but because it's facing something ancient that refused to stay hidden. And then it happened. It didn't look like much to the outside world. Just another moment, another conversation, another passing interaction. But inside you, it was a detonation, something final, something irreversible. A switch flipped, not with noise, but with clarity. The divine countdown ended, and what rose in its place wasn't new. It was simply undeniable. Your back straightened, not from pride, but from memory. Your posture shifted, not to perform, but to align. Your presence stretched wider than the room could contain, and your eyes, those eyes that once softened for the comfort of others, they pierced. They held galaxies, storms, and lifetimes. The mask fell, but it didn't shatter. It evaporated. It was never yours to begin with. It was theirs, and you finally handed it back. And then you spoke. Not in the voice they conditioned you to use, not the diluted, digestible version you'd worn like armor to avoid becoming too much. No, this time you spoke from your core, from the place where stars are born and truth burns clean. Your words didn't just land, they commanded, not in volume, not in force, but in truth. A truth that couldn't be ignored, couldn't be twisted, couldn't be silenced. This was emergence, not a performance, not a rebrand, a revealing. You didn't rise to prove anything. You rose because it was time, because the version of you that fit into their expectations had expired. That old self was never fake. It was just incomplete, necessary for the season. But seasons change, and when they do, everything that pretended to hold you back is left behind, confused and irrelevant. And make no mistake, they felt it. The shift in your tone, the certainty in your gaze. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was reverence. Even if they didn't understand it, their spirit recognized what their ego never could. This is what it means to emerge, not to become someone else, but to stop hiding who you've always been, to stop filtering your light for the comfort of those still trapped in their shadows, to let your full weight hit the earth and not apologize for the tremor it causes. You didn't wake up that day and decide to become powerful. You remembered that you already were. Number 7. When the real you showed up, the room fell into gravity. Power doesn't always speak. Sometimes it just walks in, and suddenly everyone forgets how to breathe. The silence that followed your emergence wasn't ordinary. It wasn't awkward or accidental. It was heavy, sacred. That kind of silence that feels like the split second after lightning strikes, where everything hangs suspended between what just happened and what it now means. They weren't ready. They never were. Study their reactions. Replay that moment. The wide eyes, the jaws that forgot how to close, the subtle shifts in body language, shoulders tense, feet twitching, some even stepping back without realizing it, as if your very presence had become too much for the room to hold. And the truth is, it had. That reaction wasn't about drama, it was about recognition. They didn't just see a new version of you, they saw what was always there, finally unmasked. The energy they once dismissed as too quiet or too soft, now pressed on them like a weight. And for the first time, they understood. This wasn't someone to play with. This wasn't someone they could manipulate. This was someone the universe had plans for. Your energy changed the atmosphere, and you didn't yell. You didn't demand. You existed, fully, finally. And that was enough to send shockwaves through every lie they'd told themselves about you. Now they scramble to recalibrate, scramble to find new language for what they're feeling. People who once laughed now whisper. People who brushed you off now watch you carefully, like a threat they don't know how to neutralize. The shift is real and irreversible. That nervous respect you're noticing, that wasn't there before. That's what happens when someone's energy enters the room first. That's what happens when a chosen one stops shrinking and just stands there, unbothered, unshaken, unlocked. Let them fumble. Let them trip over their own confusion. Let them try to rewrite history, to pretend they always saw your worth. You don't need their recognition. You were never waiting for it. You don't need to correct their perception. They'll either adjust or disappear. That's the cost of proximity to someone aligned. And if they suddenly seem uncomfortable, cold, or distant, good. That means your energy is doing what it's supposed to do. Separate the real from the fake. Not everyone was built to stand in your light. Not everyone can handle the heat of purpose unfiltered. This is the part where masks fall off and truth steps forward. You didn't change the game. You revealed it. And now, they're playing catch-up. Number 8. When you rose, some flinched, but others nodded. They always knew. The real ones won't ask what changed. They'll say, finally. Not everyone was shocked when you stepped into your full power. Not everyone fell back in fear or scrambled to rewrite the story. Look again. Pay attention. There were some, quiet, grounded, still, who didn't blink, who didn't stumble, who didn't gasp when your energy shifted. Instead, they nodded. Those are your people. The ones whose eyes said, I knew it. The ones whose silence didn't come from shock, but from recognition. You weren't becoming someone new. You were revealing who you've always been. And they've been waiting for this. These are your true allies. Not loud, not flashy, but real. Souls that have been through their own fire. Ones who saw through your silence because they too had to move in quiet power for a long time. The ones who didn't need proof to believe in your potential. They recognized the weight you carried because they carry weight too. You never had to perform for them. Never had to explain your depth, your distance, your discomfort in shallow spaces. These are your cosmic kin, not bound by blood or titles, but by frequency. They felt you before the world figured it out. And now, in this new space, new level, new alignment, they're still here, steady, solid, unshaken. These are the ones you build with, the ones you protect, the ones you go to war beside, not with weapons, but with truth. But as they arrive, others must go. Let them. Some will ghost you. Some will act cold, distant, confused. Let them. They were tied to your disguise, not your essence. And now that the mask has dropped, they don't know where they stand. Because they were never standing beside you, only the version of you that made them comfortable. Release them without bitterness. No malice, no drama, just clarity. This next chapter has no space for dead weight. And now comes something greater: responsibility, purpose, direction. This power you've stepped into, it wasn't given for decoration. It's not about revenge. It's not about ego. It's about alignment, about reshaping your world and the worlds around you. With the truth that's been whispering to you in dreams, in silence, in flashes of insight you couldn't always explain. This is sacred work. Move accordingly. Stay rooted in the vision. Stay connected to the ones who always saw you. And above all, don't dim again to make others stay. You were meant to rise. Now, lead. Number 9. You were never made to be small. You were made to set the sky on fire. When you stop shrinking, you don't just take up space, you reclaim it. And when you speak from truth, your voice doesn't echo. It shifts realities. No more diluting. No more shrinking your words so they go down easier. No more softening your message just to avoid discomfort. The time for that is gone. You've crossed the threshold now, and there's no going back. Speak your truth, fully, sharply, unapologetically. When you see lies, Call them out. When you see injustice, cut through it. When someone moves with manipulation, expose it, not out of revenge, but because truth is your responsibility now. You're not here to play along. You're here to correct the frequency. Your voice is no longer just communication. It's a force. It doesn't ask to be heard. It demands alignment. It doesn't try to convince. It reveals. And that revelation, it makes people uncomfortable. Good. Let it. Discomfort is what happens when illusion starts to break. Set boundaries like walls carved in stone. Your time is not up for debate. Your energy is not on the clearance rack. Your purpose is non-negotiable. They either rise to meet you or get left behind. The universe didn't put you through fire just to have you return to dust. It shaped you into something radiant, solid, unshakable. You were never a candle flickering in the dark. You were always a star, burning on your own terms, refusing to be hidden by night. They thought you were a quiet stream they could wade through. Turns out you're the ocean, and now the tide is rising. Let them feel it, let them adjust, or not. Their comfort is not your mission. You spent enough time trying to fit into rooms too small for your truth. Enough time swallowing your roar just to keep the peace. What did that ever bring you? Who did that ever serve? Not you, and not the world that needed your voice at full volume. So speak, and when you speak, speak like someone who finally understands their assignment. Not to please, not to be liked, but to ignite, to shift, to stand so boldly in your essence that even the air around you learns to move different. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your light. You don't need permission to blaze. And what they know of you now, that's only the beginning. They've seen the glow, but they haven't seen the fire. They've felt the heat, but they haven't survived the blaze. So stand tall. Stand true. Chosen one, you're not becoming. You are. And now, you burn. And so, we arrive at the edge of everything you were meant to become. No more masks, no more waiting, no more shrinking. This is your season of full emergence. And the world is just beginning to feel the weight of who you truly are. Let them adjust or fade, but you rise. If this message hits something real in you, don't keep it to yourself. Like, subscribe, and share this with another chosen one who needs to remember who they are. Drop the number 77 in the comments if you're claiming your power, loud, clear, and without apology.